Good afternoon, everyone. It's Willerzilla, and welcome back to the channel. And today we have a lot to get covering on, so we're gonna hop right into it. And today we're going to talk about 6 areas of disturbance in the tropics and 2 to 3 hurricanes at once possible. Before I do get started with the video, I would ask that you do subscribe and make sure to hit that notification bell icon. I just want to say thank you guys so much for all the amazing support on the last video. At the time I'm recording this, we're sitting at about 620 views, which is it's just crazy to me. Thank you guys so much, and let's see if we can get this video up to 10 likes. So here you can see the National Hurricane Center, or NOAA's areas of disturbance. You see we have another tropical wave kind of sitting in the Gulf right now. It has about a 30% chance of forming. Tropical Storm Sally, which is expected to become a hurricane, and then we have Hurricane Paulette, Tropical Depression Rene, Tropical Depression 20, and a wave that's over a 60% chance to form in the next 2 days. Let's look at the 5-day forecast. You can see that wave, is expected to become something here, and then we have a new wave coming off the coast of Africa. Then this wave also is expected to have about a 40% chance of forming, and then we have Tropical Depression Rene, Paulette, and Sally still. So first we're going to talk about Tropical Storm Sally, which is expected to become a hurricane at landfall across the Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama border. So let's talk about the key messages that NOAA did provide. Number one, an extremely dangerous and life-threatening storm surge is now expected, and a storm surge warning is in effect for areas outside the southeastern Louisiana hurricane and storm damage risk reduction system from Port Fourchon, Louisiana to Mississippi and the Alabama border. Residents in these areas should follow any advice given by local officials. So again, we need to be taking this storm seriously. This storm could have very life-threatening storms, as we saw with the last hurricane to hit Louisiana, and the flooding is obviously going to be a major problem with this storm. We'll get into that here in a second. Hurricane conditions are expected by early Tuesday from Grand Isle, Louisiana to Ocean Springs, Mississippi, including metropolitan New Orleans, with tropical storm conditions likely by Monday. Preparation should be rushed to completion in these areas. Tropical Storm Sally is expected to produce flash flooding across southern and central Florida and prolong existing minor river flooding across central Florida through Monday. Significant flash flooding and minor to isolated major river flooding is likely across portions of the central Gulf Coast by Monday through the middle of next week. Here you can see NOAA's map of where they're projecting the storm to go. You can see here's the current wind field of Tropical Storm Sally, and it is expected to become a hurricane by Monday afternoon, and then once it makes landfall with the Louisiana coast, it is expected to become a tropical depression by 2 a.m. on Thursday. Here's a little bit of closer view of the sea surface wind fields of Tropical Storm Sally, and a little closer view of the hurricane warnings and tropical storm and hurricane watches. You can see we do have hurricane warnings right across Louisiana and the Mississippi border, and then we have storm surge warnings as well. So if you're in this area, you need to be taking this storm seriously. You need to be listening to your higher officials. Here is a storm surge projection. So you can see we have 7 to 11 foot storm surge along Lake Borgne, which is where it is expected to make landfall. And then we have 4 to 7 feet storm surge from Ocean Springs to the Mississippi-Alabama border. And then from Lake Pontchartrain and Lake Maurepas, 4 to 6 foot storm surge is expected. Here you can see the USA rainfall in inches. So I think the major flooding is going to happen right in this general area, where we're going to be having 6 to 10 inches of rain, up to 10 to 15, and possibly 15 to 20 inches possible. So if you're in this area, you need to be taking your precautions, because you don't have much time with this storm. It's going to be there in maybe 2 to 3 days. So that's not a lot of time to get things going, as everyone's going to be rushing. So you need to be doing this right now if you can. Now here is a 3-day outlook for the flooding possibility. So you see on the right side of your screen here, we have days 1 through 3 with the flooding, and then over here is like the main map. So we have a 20% chance of moderate flooding, which is expected with landfall, and then we have a 10% slide up towards the north, and then kind of on the surrounding areas as well after it makes landfall. Now let's look at some satellite imagery. You can see very deep areas of convection in multiple spots, definitely right, let me get brighter color, definitely where I just circled, right in here. And then we have areas down towards the south that are kind of starting to fire off. So we'll definitely have to be keeping our eyes, on this convection as it is expected to intensify. Sorry. And we'll have to see, will there be any more areas of convection that could possibly be forming, and how intense will these get, as this is sitting at around -80 to areas of -85 on the scale. Now let's look at some water vapor. You can see areas of convection really, really kind of starting to fire off right in there, and then towards on the southeastern part of this storm as well. And then here on the true color scale is what it looks like with satellite imagery. You can kind of see it right here is where it is all kind of started off, and then you can kind of see right here areas of convection, maybe with this new tropical wave that they're looking at right here, where it kind of looks like parts of it trying to get something going, not much going on there. So let's look at some forecast guidance. So you can see most of the models are pretty consistent with it hitting Louisiana and then it turning right. Some models like the HWFI have it going straight out, and the AVNI have it kind of going back down towards the Gulf. Here on the GEFS model, you can see it does have millibars, but this is not right, I don't think, because the current pressure is at 998 millibars. So we're not going to look at this too deeply, but it looks like they are projecting it to be at around 48 hours with impact. Here is the intensity guidance from Tropical Tidbits. It is expected to become a Category 1 hurricane and then fall off to a tropical storm in about 36 to 60 hours. And then the current stats of Tropical Storm Sally are at pressures at 998 millibars, winds are at 50 knots or at 60 miles per hour. Remember, those winds need to be withheld for at least 1 minute. Current locations at 27.5 north, 84.9 west, and its current movement is at west-northwest at 10 knots or at 12 miles per hour. Here is the wind damage, tornado, storm surge, and flooding. So we have a high chance of significant wind damage, medium, about a moderate chance of tornadoes possible. This storm that is expected with every hurricane. There probably will be some tornadoes, possibly very short-lived tornadoes. Storm surge is going to be at a high chance, and flooding also at a high chance. Now here is my forecast. I have it becoming a Category 1 hurricane in 36 hours as it makes landfall, with pressure at 985 millibars and winds up to 80 to 85 mile per hour winds. And then in about 72 hours, I have it becoming a tropical depression. That could happen sooner, as the NHC was projecting it to become a tropical depression in about 48 to 60 hours. But then I don't have it reaching hurricane status till about 24 hours, with millibars down to 990, with winds at 75 to 78 miles per hour. Now here's my impact forecast. You can see red conditions mean hurricane conditions are likely, yellow tropical storm conditions are likely, and green is tropical depression. So I don't have any tropical depression conditions for now, but you can see an area of very visible hurricane conditions with this storm are expected, and then kind of towards the outer banks of this storm and possibly parts of Mississippi and Alabama as it makes its way right towards the Atlantic Ocean. So let's switch our focuses now to Hurricane Paulette, which is expected to become a major hurricane. And if you are in Bermuda, you're going to be having a head-on collision with this storm, so you need to be evacuating those islands right now. Let's look at the key messages for Hurricane Paulette. Paulette is expected to approach Bermuda as a hurricane on Sunday and will be near the island Sunday night and Monday. A prolonged period of strong winds, storm surge, and heavy rainfall is expected on Bermuda beginning Sunday evening, and a hurricane warning is in effect for the island. Preparations to protect life and property should be rushed to completion. Swells produced by Paulette are affecting portions of the Leeward Islands, the Greater Antilles, the Bahamas, Bermuda, and the east coast of the United States. These swells could cause life-threatening surf and rip conditions. So, Hurricane Paulette definitely not playing around, as this is expected to become a major hurricane. If you are on the Bermuda Islands, you need to be taking your precautions by evacuating and taking your property with you. As I did hear from a friend, they actually have to evacuate all the boats from the island, what I think is kind of cool and funny. Here you can see the close-up map. You can see we are expected to have a major hurricane Tuesday morning. Other than that, this is a pretty big wind, as Bermuda is probably already experiencing some of these winds. And then it will be a tropical storm around Friday, and that's where it is expected to kind of fall apart. Here you can see a kind of close-up view of the wind field and obviously the one hurricane warning for the whole island of Bermuda. You can see it's a pretty significant wind field, so this wind probably won't be playing on. They don't have a storm surge map out yet. Here, at looking at some convection, you can see not a big area of convection, maybe a little bit right here, but you can definitely see the eye right in there. And then here on the water vapor as well, you know, you can kind of see that we're talking about where it's kind of affecting the West Antilles Islands and possibly some of the U.S. coast kind of up here. And then here on the true color, or what it looks like on satellite imagery, you can definitely see a very clear eye right in there. It's not very big, but you know, that is an eye that's very, very visible, and you can see the Bermuda Islands kind of sitting right here. So it is already being affected by this. It's going to be a matter of time whenever it makes landfall. Now let's look at some intensity guidance and some track guidances. You can see all the models are consistent with it hitting Bermuda and then turning right. Now, it's going to be a matter of in about 120 to 160 hours of what's going to happen after. We don't have, you know, the best ways to see how that's going to happen, so we're going to kind of have to wait for that to come closer to kind of see what's going to happen with this hurricane. And here's a kind of closer view of the GEFS model as it has it in about 72 hours at its lowest peak of pressure down to 967 millibars. And then now we're going to look at some of the intensity guidance. So the UKX2 model has it becoming a Category 3 as along with others, and then it falling all the way down to a tropical storm in about 84 down to probably 120 hours. I have it becoming a major hurricane with Category 3 stats, and I'll show you guys my forecast here in a minute. Let's look at the current stats for Hurricane Paulette. Pressure's at 976 millibars, winds at 70 knots or at 80 miles per hour. Current location is at 29.9 north, 161.9 west, and current movement is at northwest at 12 knots or at 14 miles per hour. Here's my forecast. So here in about 36 hours, I have it becoming a major hurricane with pressure sitting on 955 to 960 millibars, with winds at 110 to 115 miles per hour. Other than that, I have it be in about 60 hours, still at a Category 2 status. As far as I'm going to go, I'm about 60 hours. That's where I feel the most comfortable with these types of forecasts. So now we're not going to be spending much time on this, but we're going to look at Tropical Depression Rene. I'm not going to be spending much time on this here. You can kind of see some of the intensity guidances and model track guidance. As you can see, very consistent with the kind of turning left and then going straight towards the northern Leeward Islands. Here's another as the GEFS model. You know, it's we thought Tropical Depression Rene could become a hurricane, but it never did. It kind of fell apart due to the shear, and then here on the intensity guidance, you can kind of see it's not really expected to intensify much further. So let's look at, I think it's Tropical Depression 20, as we are expecting another hurricane to form here in the next 2 to 3 days. Here's another area of the tropical storm wind probabilities. You can see its highest peak of it being a tropical storm here in about 70 to 80% chance right here in that kind of red color. And then here on the track guides, you can see most of the models have it very consistent, other than this one model. The CEM2 model has it kind of going out towards sea, but others, every single model has it kind of going out and up to the north, as it is projected by the National Hurricane Center as well. And then here kind of shows more models and the pressure. Again, this is a GEFS model. The lowest pressure down to about 955 millibars, about 192 hours. And then here on the intensity guidance, you can see the HWFI has it becoming a Category 4 hurricane. Others have it becoming a Category 2, possibly a very weak Category 3 hurricane. Here on the satellite imagery, you can see areas of convection kind of starting to show up on the satellite imagery right there. But other than that, not much convection really is trying to form here. And then we have that new wave of Africa. You can kind of see up towards the northeast of this storm. Here on the satellite imagery of the water, you can see here's that new wave coming off of Africa. No convection really kind of started to fire off, kind of down towards the southern part of the storm. But other than that, with Tropical Depression 20, you can kind of see an area of convection trying to form kind of, and looks like kind of the center part of the storm. And then here on the true color, you can kind of see it's not very well organized currently, and then kind of towards the northeast, that wave of Africa is not very well formed at all. Let's look at some more sea surface temperatures. You can see very warm waters in the Gulf, which could cause Tropical Storm Sally to rapidly intensify. But other than that, Bermuda about 84 degrees Fahrenheit, and then kind of towards the Leeward Islands, upper 80s with these sea surface temperatures. So let's kind of look at the shear here. You can see there's a big chunk of shear kind of towards the north here, and then a little chunk that maybe could cause Tropical Storm Sally to non-intensify as far as we're thinking, but I don't think it's going to cause much effect to it at all, maybe just on the outer banks of the storm. Here on the kind of more intense wind shear, you can see here is Florida. Right in here you can see very favorable conditions for intensification. Here there's hardly any shear, and then up towards Bermuda we do have a major area of wind shear that is going to kind of cause these storms to fall apart once it kind of reaches this area. It's very, very strong shear. Here on the atmospheric moisture, you can kind of see where the Leeward Islands are. There is an area of kind of very moist area and then very dry air kind of sitting over the Bermuda area. But other than that, right in here we have extremely moist waters and atmospheric conditions that could cause intensification as well. Here's the tropical intensity index. You can see the entire Gulf is in highly favorable conditions, and then kind of towards where the Leeward Islands are very highly favorable conditions, and then once it kind of goes out towards sea where that wind shear is, highly unfavorable. Let's look at the Saharan air does. You can see the Saharan air kind of sitting over Bermuda right now, and then right here in the Gulf there's hardly anything showing up, and then here you can kind of see those two big storms kind of setting off the African coast. That's going to do it for the video, guys. Hopefully you all did enjoy. I would ask that you do subscribe if you did enjoy the weather content. Make sure to like, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.